Okay, so we thank Booties for having us. And all of you for being out here. My team is here. They work hard every day. I work 7 days a week and they work 8 days a week. And so I thank them for their commitment to the office and to you, our constituents. Okay, we'll start. We're waiting for some of the other elected officials and the police department that will be here. I know some of you may have some concerns. Public safety, all of us, right? And in addition to these meet and greets, we're also sponsoring our sort of like monthly forums. We had them on the Amber School on 215th Street. We had the last one at the Fort Washington Collegiate Church on 181st Street in Fort Washington. We'll have one further down as we go downtown to the new part of the district, which is up around 110th Street. And then we'll go into East Harlem, and come back up all the way up to the Northwest Bronx. Okay, so we do that at least once a month. We have one of those community forums, and we try to have these coffees at least once every other week. Station and Parks effort with Mayor Adams that's gonna address the rat issue. Right, Moses? There's a lot of rats. And so we're gonna address the rat issue, and the mayor put forward a rat czar for the city of New York, and he invested $3.5 million in this initiative with the Department of Health and Parks and NYCHA in the Harlem Rat Mitigation Zone. I'm going to take all questions, so don't get anxious. We'll hear from you. And that particular project includes 28 NYCHA developments, 73 park locations, 70 schools, and over 10,000 private properties. And so this is whole mitigation effort with containers and the latest in how to address the rat issue in New York City. And so you may remember the late and great Senator Bill Perkins used to wear a rat in his lapel because he had a special initiative in Harlem and particularly in the NYCHA developments against rats. And now the mayor has taken that up, and our local council member, not from here but from further down, Sean Abreu, is leading that effort. So that's on the rats. And I remember that. I remember when 10th Avenue was paved, because it used to be a cobblestone street. There was a migration of rats. You remember, Nancy, right? Going up as far as Isham Park and Seaman and Inwood Hill Park. And so we had to start back then an effort to contain them. I think it's been somewhat effective, although there's still far too many. Okay, that's on the rat. Asylum seekers. Okay, 72,000 have passed through the city of New York. Out of those, 46,000 have remained, are under the care of New York City. The city, of course, has an issue with funding. The city has received $38 billion for it. We approved an $800 billion allotment early in the year, and the city has only gotten 38. So I led a letter to FEMA asking for the city of New York to get their just fair funding. FEMA is a trouble agency. Sometimes they are the disaster, and we want to make sure that they deliver and release the funding so that New York City could then be able to address the housing and food needs of migrants. Who, by the way, and not many people want to talk about this, but I'll talk about it. Not one major violence problem or incident registered by the police has been caused by any of those migrants. So those that try to portray them as like hungry criminals that are coming across the border, the numbers show differently. And by the way, many of them are college grads, and all they want is to work. So we should work harder in Congress to give them a work permit. When you go to a restaurant and your order is late, okay, when you get you go to a restaurant and your order is late, many of the small business owner will tell you that is a lack of employees, that they need more workers. So here we go, we got them. Let's put them to work. And so that's on that. The city has identified 3,000 proposed sites. There are no school gyms involved, I oppose that. And really only 20 are under serious consideration. So including at JFK, a warehouse at JFK Airport to be converted into a single adult shelter. And some hotel reconversions into shelters. So there's 20 sites. The chaos that was projected after the disappearance of Title 42 did not materialize. The numbers are coming down at the border. And in fact, what is happening is that governors like Governor Abbott and DeSantis are using some of the federal dollars that we give to those states to bust them here. But the numbers at the border have tapered off, they're going down. The initiatives that were put forward by the Biden administration, I believe, have been effective. Although I do think that the migration issue is not just a U.S. issue, it's a worldwide issue that answers to a crisis of democracy in the Western Hemisphere that is not ideological, is not from the left or the right, it's from both sides. And so we must address that at the global setting to ensure that we take our leadership again in the hemisphere and address some of the conditions in those countries that are pushing migration up to our border. That's the real issue. A mom will take her 13-year-old who's being recruited by a vicious gang, and she will take her other 2 kids, and she will walk thousands of miles to the border to ensure that they're safe. Our government will threaten somebody, a dissident, a journalist, and they'll walk 3,000 miles to the border, through the Darien jungle or the Panamanian jungle to the border. A drought, a 7-year drought, will propel a food security issue where there's hunger, and a mom will take up her 3 or 4 kids and walk right through the middle of the jungle, which, by the way, I tried to get to, and we could never get in with a helicopter because of bad weather. So imagine the conditions in the Darien jungle in Panama, where people perish there, they disappear. Nobody knows how many people have died there, including men, women, and children. So this is a hemispheric issue that we must address as the leader of the hemisphere, and we should not abdicate our leadership to any other country, including China. So that's where we are in terms of the asylum seekers. I think that the Biden plan to broaden sort of like legal pathways to come and apply for asylum seekers, which includes sites in their own country, the continuation of the parole program, which gave a set of slots to Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, and then the family reunification program that was implemented that gave slots to countries like Colombia, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras are very effective. And so we will continue to support the Biden initiative. Clearly, there wasn't the chaos that we expected at the border after Title 42, and I think that will yield some positive results. Okay, we have been joined by Senator Robert Jackson. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Come on, Senator. Don't hide. All right, Senator.
Good morning, everyone.
And Assembly Member Manny de los Santos, yeah, is with us today. Manny on the corner. Manny has his initiative called Manny on the corner. I don't know what that means yet, but you know, it's something good. Okay, the debt ceiling. And I'll try to go through these really quickly so that I can hear from the members. and yourself, of course. The debt ceiling, as you know, the debt ceiling was a manufactured crisis, an artificial crisis that has happened 78 times in the past since the 1960s, 49 times during Republican administration. And it's really, the way I put it to the constituents is like, if you get your credit card bill and you say, you know, I'm not gonna pay my credit card. Although I went partying Saturday, although I went to a fancy restaurant, although I bought a nice dress or a suit, I'm not gonna pay that bill until I renegotiate my home mortgage or my apartment mortgage. What does your mortgage have to do with your credit card bill? If you don't pay your credit card bill, you're gonna get penalized and it's gonna affect your credit rating, right? One has nothing to do with the other. But the Republicans try to link the debt ceiling to what they call spending, which are critical programs like SNAP, right? Food stamps, like TANF, which is help for needy families, like the student loan debt. An issue like that one, important to people that are, you know, that are loaded with $200,000-$300,000 from college, right? And they can't get started because they saddle with this debt. So they try to connect one with the other, and of course, by just even talking about it, the markets are impacted, not just the local market in the U.S., but the global markets. And so it was an artificial crisis with very dire and serious consequences. But President Biden was able to do it. I voted against it. And I voted against it because it hurts working people. And because it hurts moms and college students that graduated and have a saddle with a debt. Because it hurts working families. And that should not be the culprit. That should not be the victim. You know, why don't we talk about the deficit and the type of tax breaks that we're giving to the rich for decades upon decades that have contributed dramatically to the deficit? That's what's contributed to the deficit. The fact that Amazon doesn't pay the kind of taxes you pay. That's the fairness in taxing is the real issue. So that's the debt ceiling. We put it behind us for the next 2 years. And again, as I said, also environmental issues were addressed in their favor. The National Environmental Policy Act was streamlined, making it easier for polluters to get licenses and permits. And so for that reason, also, I voted against it. Okay. Finally, on the issues, right, on gun violence, right? We all know that 85% of the weapons in New York City come from Georgia, Virginia, and South Carolina. Right? 85% of the handguns. And we see the debate around semi-automatic weapons, which should be banned. But the real issue affecting our neighborhood is handguns. Right. That's what shows up in our corners every weekend, and the result is death. Right? So I sponsored the ghost guns bill. Now we know for a fact that ghost guns are the weapons of the future. And like President Biden said, you buy a dining set at IKEA and you assemble it, and at the end of the day you have a dining set. But if you get a ghost gun in your home via mail and you assemble it, at the end of the day you have a 9mm weapon in your hand with no traceable ID, with the inability of government to do a background check. And so we got to outdo all of that. And so that's why I introduced the Ghost Guns bill, which has already been implemented by the Biden administration administratively to the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency. But we want to codify it. We want to make it into law so that it's applicable not just in this administration, but in future administrations as well. In addition to that, we also had yesterday was the Gun Violence Awareness Day, and I was with Senator Jackson at a rally at Jehu Wright Park. Wearing orange. That's right. He's wearing yellow today, but he was wearing orange yesterday. Stop the gun violence! There you go. So we introduced a resolution to declare gun violence a public health crisis. Yes, yes. Children are being killed by gun violence. Young people are shooting at each other. Women are being killed by gun violence, domestic violence victims. This is a health crisis of national dimension. So, along with Representative Madeline Dean, I reintroduced my Untraceable Firearms Act, the Ghost Guns Act, and we are confident that it could become part of law. Okay, with that, I'll leave it up to you to bring up any other local or international issue. But before we hear from you, let's hear from our state senator, Robert Jackson.
Thank you, Adriano. Thank you for your leadership and giving us an update what's happening in the budget. And obviously, they pushed the budget 2 years to after the next election. So whoever is elected, hopefully it will be Biden. That will continue in order to address this issue. But as you know, part of the deal is that certain individuals that are receiving funding are going to have to work. And so I don't know how that's going to work out, but obviously we need to pay attention and then communicate to all of our elected public officials, both in Congress and, when I say Congress, meaning the House, and also the state Senate. We have 2 U.S. senators, Chuck Schumer and Gillibrand, and we need to communicate with them also. But we're coming down the home stretch, Manny and I, of our budgetary process. It ends June 8th, so I'm leaving tomorrow afternoon. I won't be back until either Thursday or Friday. But there's 2 major issues that I'm working on right now. School solutions, not suspension. The bottom line is that right now in the system, they could suspend a student 180 days. You know what that is? A whole entire school year. And then most of the children that are being suspended are black, brown, children LGBTQ, or children with disabilities. Most of them, okay? And we're saying to them that we must find a better way, because if not, we're increasing the school to prison pipeline, and that's what we're trying to stop overall. So we're working on it. Joanna Garcia. Joanna, raise your hand, please. Our Chief of Staff. We're in negotiations right now with UFT, NICET, and others. I'm talking about this weekend, and we'll continue, hopefully, before we can get out of here, and hopefully have a bill that we passed in the Senate that address the issue, the concerns that we've raised.
On the 34th precinct, we'll get, I believe that the community affairs folks and some of the officers will be here, but up to date in the 34th precinct, which unfortunately used to average over 100 homicides a year back in the 80s and 90s, as far up as 122 homicides one year. 0 homicides as of yet this year. So we want to thank Inspector Castillo, who couldn't be here with us, but Captain, right? Lieutenant, all right, Lieutenant. I see the white shirt. I just gave him a promotion. Come on, smile, Lieutenant. Give me a smile. But anyway, 0 homicides. Inspector Castillo in the 34th precinct have a special unit right on at the foot of the bridge on 207th Street. Many of the crime that's committed is coming from the Bronx to Manhattan, from Manhattan to the Bronx via scooters, motorcycle, and so they have a mobile precinct there at the foot of the bridge. I support that because it cuts down crime, it keeps you safer, and it leads us to what we have right now, which is 0 homicides in the 34th precinct. And if we keep it that way, at the end of the year, we're going to have a big party to celebrate that we came from 120-something homicides a year to 0 homicides a year because of your commitment. Right, Moise? I want to introduce you to Moise. He's my childhood friend from back in the day in Washington Heights. And where's Doug Henderson? Doug Henderson's gone? Oh, there's Doug Henderson. He was the one that supported me the very first time when I ran back in 1900. Okay, now let's hear from our State Assemblyman, Manny de los Santos.
Thank you, Congressman. Good morning.
Good morning.
Tea, coffee. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, much better. So, as Senator Jackson said, we're happy that we're coming back to the district, but we have to make sure that we'll come back to the district when we get things done in Albany. That means that clean slate has to become a reality. And I know, as a social worker, working in community school, working with young men and women who had suffered for many years, who are ready to get back to society, who are ready to be fully integrated, yet there's not an opportunity there out there. So I'm a proud sponsor of Clean Slate. It looks good. I think we're gonna get it done. There's some technicality that the governor is working on. And we're excited to come back and see Clean Slate finally becoming a reality. In addition to that, we are working a lot of legislation, and we know that in order to push this legislation forward, we need folks to get fully engaged in the process, because we're one. 63 in the Senate, 150 in the Assembly. It's a lot of members, but we need help. This is reality. We need help. And it doesn't matter when someone calls and someone goes to Albany on Lobby Tuesday to help us carry a lot of this legislation forward, but a legislation that speaks truth to the current situation we're facing in our communities. So I'm excited to be here, but I'm also excited to listen to some of your concerns, comments, and see how we can be helpful and instrumental in getting some of the issues that are currently affecting everyday life. We're also working on the Sami's Law. Anyone familiar with the Sami's Law?
Yes, I am.
Anyone familiar with the Sami Law? So we're trying to decrease the spit limit
In New York City.
in New York City to 20%. 20%. I can't think for a community like ours how significant it is to decrease the spit limit. I'm already concerned about dirt bikes, noise complaint, the motorcycle, right? For Instagram, for the videos, coming up here, using our community to disturb our quality of life. The vote are kind of divided as we speak. I think we have an opportunity, and when we talk about working together to make sure that Sami's Law becomes a reality, I mean actually going to Albany, getting on the phone, sending a letter, because Sami's Law will save lives. It's about saving lives. It's about saving lives. It's about bringing peace, about bringing justice. It's about making sure that we're not afraid to walk the street. There's one item that we have begun on my first session as a legislator, that we continue to work together with the center and have not passed. But I think that how can we return back to our respective district and not deliver on the budget, which we didn't, but post-budget we have an opportunity to do it, and that is tenants protection. I mean, we have to include tenant protection. It's never too late. Martin Luther King said it's never too late to do what's right. And it's never too late to do what's right. We can still do what's right, and that is to include the good cause this year. Good cause. Good cause.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of folks getting evicted, on the verge of losing their housing. As we speak, there's folks crying, living in the basement, a one-bedroom apartment. They have nowhere to live. We need to come together to find a solution, because the problem is getting bigger. And we have the power. We have the power to pass good cause. It's a housing issue. Housing is a human right. Good cause is a human right. We need to get it done. So I'm happy to be here. I want to hear from you. How can I be helpful? How can I do my job better as we come forward back from Albany, but as we face this summer, which I'm looking forward to it, but we have to make sure that the police department is working with us to ensure that all these dirt bikes, all these cars that are leaving all the community coming up here to disturb the diversity in our beautiful community that we all have doesn't become disturbed, right? So thank you so much. I'm here if you have any questions, anything that can be helpful.
Okay, we do this because we want to hear from you, not just to hear accolades and applauses, but to hear your criticism. Dissent is patriotic. Dissent is patriotic. Without dissent, democracy dies. So we want to hear your complaints, and we'll get to you as soon as we hear from the councilwoman. Yeah, we're on schedule. We wanted to keep it to 35 minutes. I said, you know, you see me every day. You can't ask no questions here. You can call me anytime. He wants to show up here and disrupt things. He's a disruptor. Our councilwoman, of course, she's doing a great job. Carmen de la Rosa.
Thank you. I will be very brief because we want to answer questions from everybody. Well, our state legislators did their thing and passed a budget. Some were good, some were bad, right? But now that they've passed the budget, it's the city council's turn to pass a budget. And we, I think, are in a much deeper fight on these budget items that are affecting our city. You all know that right now we're traversing the crisis when it comes to the asylum seekers. Unfortunately, the last few weeks have been very tumultuous because, as you know, the right to shelter law is in danger. One of the things that makes our city great is that anybody who comes to our city, including all of us if we ever need it, have the right to shelter in our city. And so there is an effort to roll that back. We are pushing back on that effort. We understand that the city council is a check and balance on the mayor, and that it is our job to preserve the rights that have been inherited to our city. And so we've been working really hard to preserve the right of shelter. The city council last week passed a package of legislation to make sure that we have access to vouchers for our homeless New Yorkers. We are at an all-time high on the shelter census in our city. And what this package of bills will do is that it will give access to New Yorkers who have been languishing in shelters, not asylum seekers because they don't qualify unfortunately, but New Yorkers who are in shelter to move out of shelter into permanent housing so that we can then make room for our asylum seekers who will continue to come. And so I was very proud to stand with the speaker, with Councilmember Pierina Sanchez, Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala, in getting that done. And you know, there's a threat of a veto, so the work is not done, but we have a veto-proof majority, so we're good on that. And so, besides that, there's a lot going on in our office. My staff is here. Jamila Sandoval is my community affairs. Say hi, Jamila, back there. She's here. We have Freina Familia, who's here also from my team. Our office has a farm share program going on. If you want to sign up, make sure you see one of them. We have immigration lawyers that come to our office once a week. We are also supporting tenants' rights with tenant clinics that are happening, and we can refer folks if you have housing and security issues as well as navigating our city agencies, which is one of the major problems we're having right now. As we begin this negotiation on the budget, one of the things that you all should know is that our city agencies at this moment are facing all-time high vacancy rates. And that's impacting the delivery of services for our city. So if, for example, you have a housing issue and you call HPD, it is likely that they don't have enough inspectors to send out to make sure that our housing stock is healthy, that the violations are being addressed. So as the chair of the Civil Service and Labor Committee, I've been really honing in on what we're doing about vacancy rates at city agencies. We held a hiring hall on Sherman Avenue a few weeks ago. More than 3,000 people applied for jobs. I know citywide, 1,500 conditional offers have been made for employment in the city. We're trying, as part of the work that I'm doing in the committee, to reform the civil service exam so we can eliminate barriers to entrance for city jobs. But the bulk of the work that we're doing, it has to do with the budget. And we've identified, I'm the co-chair of the Progressive Caucus in the City Council, and we've identified 5 issue areas, and I'm going to walk you all through what that is as we negotiate the budget. The first one, our North Star, is education funding. As you know, last year there was big drama with the education cuts. This year, we are pushing back against threats to cut to universal child care for all options, including 3K. And obviously, budget cuts to schools is a major issue that we're trying to address. As Jackson knows, Manny knows, the state budget puts funding for our education system. So now we got to make sure that that funding comes down to our schools. Housing, we are asking for $4 billion in capital dollars for NYCHA, HPD, to make sure that we can address housing issues and dilapidated conditions in our community. $70 million, we need $70 million to expand the right to counsel so that every tenant that's facing eviction has the ability to get a lawyer. And then we're also asking for $100 million for the tenant lease interim program, which is the TIL program. Many of the buildings in our community are TIL buildings. They were promised to have ownership of their apartments, and so we want to make sure that they are able to do that.
Thank you. Okay, some of the funding, I'm going to read off real quickly some of the funding that we've been able to get to the district from Washington. $400,000 for a new kitchen at the Arc Senior Center on 181st Street. Okay, we have the $1.5 million for the Charles B. Rango Center for Infrastructure Workforce Training at City College. $700,000 for cloth for food pantry. $750,000 for the COVID-19 Wellness Corp. That's a mental health initiative with Columbia University. We have also $530,000 for Credible Messengers mentoring initiative to diffuse violence amongst young people. $1 million for the Dominican Women's Development Center for their STEM program. $1.7 million for the Inwood Merchant Association. They're supposed to clean up 207th Street and Dyckman Street. $1 million for the Brotherhood Sister Soul Youth Initiative in Hamilton Heights. $1 million for the Y on 54 Nagel Avenue. Woo! Star is getting on 187th Street a new kitchen, new bathroom, new floors, and new lighting. PS 28, my former elementary school. You too. That was about 70 years ago. Relax, Marcel. You know, they're getting a new playground, a new soccer field. We have $3 million for the Small Business Crime Prevention Alliance that's working with the police department and the small business community to have crime prevention initiative, and another $1 million with the Neighborhood Coordinating School Initiative with the police department and young people to make sure that they are safe. $11 million for the Inwood 10th Avenue Safety and Improvement, that's infrastructure. We also got over $100 million for the East Side Greenway. And there's lots more, but these are the ones that come to mind of the funding opportunities that we were able to get to the district. And that's just in Manhattan. I didn't get into Harlem, East Harlem. That's just northern Manhattan or the Bronx. There are similar investments. And we try to do it equitably, not to pit one neighborhood against the other. You know, people say, well, you left Washington Heights, you have your office in Harlem. You turn your back there. As well, we open up an office on 720 West 181st. Some people say the Bronx is not taken care of. For far too long, it's forgotten. We have a presence there. And we try to bring that kind of balance, right, to the entire district. So not one neighborhood has an advantage over the other. So the Northwest Bronx, Northern Manhattan, Harlem, and East Harlem are equitable in terms of funding public policy and my legislative agenda. With that, I'm going to open. What's that gentleman that wanted that question? Right here.